Welcome back to the class, everyone. For some weird reason, a lot of people are just now unlocking Galactic Legend Ray and really building up their resistance squads in general. So what I want to do today is take a look at if you're going to give them Omicrons, what priority that should be in. And in addition to that, how do we mod these teams for the best success on defense? So before we do get into today's video, I do want to have a reminder. Yesterday or 2 days ago now, we made a video talking about the Zeta priority that you want on all of your resistance characters, as well as advising that you do take the time to also farm Ben, Solo, and Zori after you've gotten the Lightspeed bundle. That's kind of what the sarcastic remark too was in the very beginning of the video. And then we also in that video talked about different types of team comps and different ways you can split up your resistance. So that video is going to give a lot more context to this one, because really today I just want to talk about the Omicrons that are available for the resistance squads, as well as the modding that you're going to want on all those characters. So if you're a little bit confused as to why we're modding a character for the specific team, that was kind of explained in the previous video that I'll leave in the description. But again, getting to today's video, let's just jump right into modding. We'll deal with the Omicrons once we're done with this. And the way that I have this structured, just so it's clear, is that I want to talk about the characters that need high level modding first, like which ones really do need your fastest speed sets or your best offense secondaries, and that is going to be Ray and Resistance Hero Finn. We're also going to talk about pretty much all the characters, but I want you to know, if you only have the time and energy or mod depth to really super mod a few of them, these are your first two priorities. If you can do those, awesome, and you want to do more, these are your next priorities. Then after that, these are pretty important, and then as the title goes, these are kind of meh. I mean, you want mods on them, but after that, whatever. So first off, let's talk about Galactic Legend Ray. How does she need to be modded? And this is fairly true for both offense and defense, and there really isn't much variation with this within the community. We're all trying to do one thing, and that is load Ray up with a ton of offense so that when she gets heir to the Jedi and deals true damage to all enemies, splitting it up equally, we're trying to kill several characters, if not all of them. And to do that, we just need raw offense on her. I will say, and this is a little bit different than normal character modding, she doesn't want that much speed. She does like some speed, but you do not want to put any speed on her sacrificing offense or health. That is really the key here. She wants those two stats over speed by far. And the reason why is because, different from other characters, when you look at other characters and you look at their specials, you'll see this fancy word for cooldown. And what that means is this character is going to want to take more turns to be able to refresh their cooldowns and constantly circle through their specials. Ray doesn't do that. She actually has special conditions which unlock her specials, no pun intended, for her to use them. She doesn't need to be cycling through all these different turns. And furthermore, she actually gets some benefit from being a little bit slower. Her team, or rather her kit itself, has both damage immunity, and in her ultimate, she'll only take 1 damage for whatever hit she gets. So having her be a little bit slower while she's in those two different types of modes can be beneficial, not just because she's not going to take damage, but also because the enemy can time out due to that. So overall, speed is not a huge focus. We want to aim more for offense and health. Now, practically, what does that look like? That means we are not going to put a speed set on her, and that means we are also not going to apply a speed arrow to her. Most characters are going to want a speed primary arrow in this top right-hand corner here. Ray is really going to benefit more from health or offense. Now, I will say this. The offensive goals that most people put for the Ray at, for example, R8, which is mine, would be about 12,000. You don't necessarily have to hit that. You just need to try your best to get there. And the best way to get there is you have two options. You either need a very high offense secondary, like this one right here. It's about 5%. I mean, 7 would be great, but this is just kind of what I have. And a health primary. If you just don't have that great of depth for offense secondaries, like you don't have 5%, you don't have 4%, you don't have 3%, you really want to transition to using an offense primary, because you can't actually use both at the same time. So again, if you can, ideally the mods that Ray wants on both her cross, her triangle, as well as her arrow would be a health primary with a really good offense secondary, which would be about 4, 5, 6% if they're available. If you just don't have health primaries with offense percent secondaries, then you want to aim for a offense primary here, because that'll get you the best bang for your buck. I will say again, as a high relic character that you're going to want to have at relic 7, relic 8, maybe even relic 9, flat offense does not do nearly as much as percent offense. We're not going to run all the math on right now, but that's just a generally true fact about relic characters. So offense primaries here or health primaries with a offense secondary. Your circle is going to be the exact same standard. You're going to want a health primary with a good offense secondary here. Now, again, we said before at the beginning that speed wasn't very important, but you see that we have a 20 speed secondary here. The main thing is you cannot sacrifice offense for speed. If you're having to make a choice between a high speed and a high offense, you take the high offense. If you can have speed with the high offense, that's great. That's not the ultimate priority here. The ultimate priority is getting this as high as you can. Again, we want a really high offense secondary for all these mods. And then overall, she would really enjoy one health set and one offense set. And she is going to be really the largest priority for any of your resistance characters, because most of the counters that go against Rey revolve on whether or not she can actually get the big kill on them with Heir to the Jedi. Also, the reason why health is so important, I realize we talked about offense, is because her lifeblood, when she gives this to all of her characters, she's giving a portion of her own health to everyone else. And that's important because however high her health is the amount of actually protection up she's going to be giving, or bonus protection she's going to be giving out to the rest of her allies. So the higher her health is, the higher the bonus protection she gives to her allies is going to be, and they're going to be able to survive longer. They're going to be able to get inspired, gain mastery that way, and ultimately just wreck the opponent's squad. So Rey's modding, very important. Next up, the other most important character to have modded well is going to be Resistance Hero Finn. And the reason why he's important, and again, this is material we're using from yesterday's videos, if you're using him under an OG Finn lead with Zori on the team, he has the highest natural base speed, so he is going to be the one to go and get the turn meter train going. Again, we're not going to go into all the mechanics of it. That's really what yesterday's video is for, but the OG Finn lead combined with all of Zori's kit is going to give you a huge turn meter train whenever you're hitting exposes or doing other things of the sort. But you need someone to actually move first to get that going, and since Resistance Hero Finn's base speed is actually really high, he's the best candidate to be able to do this. He is going to get an extra, I believe, 25 speed from Zori's unique, so you're going to be able to compete with a lot of the other high-end teams that can beat it, like Jedi Knight Revan or Troopers, I guess would be the other main example of something that needs to go first to be able to beat it before they can get their exposes going and all the TM going. So you can really, you know, this isn't like the best idea ever, but for a lot of people I would recommend this. You can really throw caution completely to wind with all the other stats. You will notice here that I only have one set on him with the speed set. I have an offense set here and a health set here, which typically isn't that great, but he just wants speed. The counter is made or broken by the fact of whether he goes first or the enemy goes first. So I have this plus 26 critical chance primary that really wouldn't be that great in that many places. I threw it on him because it had 26 speed. I don't care about the crit chance. I don't care about the offense set. The same can be said about the cross. It has 26 speed. I don't care that it has 112 offense. I don't care that it has 35% tenacity. He just wants to go first and start causing a ton of issues. Speed arrow, obviously, this is the same. This could actually be a lot better if I were to wanting to have ideal modding. This would have 10 more speed, but we're all limited here, so what can you do? Again, this one, I don't care about any of the other stuff that's going on about it. Don't care as well. He just wants to be as fast as possible so that he can start getting the team going. They can generate their turn meter and just completely bulldoze the enemy team. So speed, 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 speed. Very different from Rey, who has a lot more nuance as far as the health and offense mechanics that jump into it. So those are the two most important that'll make or break a lot of counters. The next three I want to talk about, these might not make or break every single counter, but they're ones you want to have modded correctly and you want to put the time and effort into if you're going to get the best results from the two squads that we talked about yesterday. And the first one I want to talk about is JTR herself. So JTR really has two main roles on defense when she's trying to defend against a team like Starkiller, and that is be really annoying, and two, don't die and cause a timeout. One of the ways that she can cause a timeout is if she is allowed to be inspired and the enemy team is gaining turn meter, which Emperor Palpatine over from Starkiller gains a lot of turn meter. She is going to increase her dodge chance because that's her mastery, and that's kind of how Rey's kit works. You need her not to die before she gets to that point. So what I would really recommend for most people is defensive sets, which are just nice in general for reducing the enemy's damage, and protection primaries. She does not need a ton of speed, very different from Resistance Hero Finn. I think I only have things like 10 speed or 13 speed or 12 speed on all of her secondaries, because how her kit really works is when the enemy team, whether it's JML, C, or Star Killer, they're throwing out all those debuffs, she's going to be gaining turn meter every single time that an enemy ends up with a debuff. I don't remember if it's on this one or the other one. Ray gains secret intel. When Ray suffers a debuff, she has 40% chance to... Oh, it's at the top, yeah. When another ally suffers a debuff, or when another resistance ally gains secret intel, she gains 8% turn meter. So you really don't have to worry that much about speed. She will get that because her allies will be getting debuffs, or she'll be getting turn meter to do so. You just want her to survive. You want her to be fairly tanky. Potency doesn't hurt on her. I would probably aim for a more defensive build, but the potency is nice for her to be able to land her ability block. But she actually gets some nice bonuses is if she doesn't, so it's not the end of the world. So make her tanky. She has the tank role. That's kind of her place in all of this, and I know she really wanted to know all that. Next up is going to be Finn. Again, we talked about OG Finn we talked about Resistance Hero Finn under the OG Finn lead with Zori. Resistance Hero's Finn role is to get the turn meter going. Finn's role is to not die, and he's really the main thing that is going to be standing in the way between you killing the rest of the important characters like Zori, Resistance Hero Finn, or Rose, and not. So we want to have him as tanky as possible. His speed, again, is not that important. Once the turn meter starts getting going with the exposes, most things are kind of taken care of for you, so you can just aim for survivability on him. Protection or health primaries are ideal. I think I like protection more than I like health, but both are good. And then really, if you can get a high speed secondary on a protection primary, that would be great. I personally don't have that much depth to give the resistance squad, so a speed primary ultimately is fine. And then you can see with these two other mods, I have some good defense and health secondaries, but ultimately you just want to make him tanky. He is the tank. He has a fairly consistent way to taunt if you're using the squad that we prescribed yesterday, and ultimately can just cause a lot of issues because he's really hard to kill when you have the team built properly. Next up is going to be Ben Solo. Ben Solo is going to be on your race squad. We talked about again in our last video, and he does care a lot about offense. He is a damage dealer. Really, his health... My big issue with modding him to be tanky is that he's very limited because he just doesn't have the stats to really go with it. And you can kind of make it work, but in reality, if the enemy team has enough DPS to work down Rey, they're going to have more than enough DPS to also work down Ben Solo. So really, I want to go for offense on kind of the off chance that he is going to be able to gain more mastery by getting inspired and the enemy gain turn meter. And then eventually you can just wreck the enemy squad because of both of his modding and the offense he's built up through his mastery. I don't hate potency on him. I wouldn't die on this hill either. You could have a defense secondary or a health secondary or a potency secondary. It's really not that big of a deal, whatever that is. You just want to make sure you have the offense set. And I will say this is different from a lot of other attackers. Offense primary, offense primary, offense primary. The reason why we don't really care that much about critical damage here is because of the amount of true damage that he is able to deal. He's not even going to care about critting that much in the first place. And furthermore, most of the squads that your Rey is either going to be beating on offense or defense, they can't even be crit in the first place. They either have crit immunity, or they have advantage that is going to stop them from being crit, or they have protection up that is going to stop them from being crit. So you're going to want to just aim to have him hit really hard offensively. And I believe his crit chance is also really low. Yeah, so unless you're doing a complete overhaul to try to get him to crit against teams he can't, it just seems very odd. Aim for offense. Get him a decent amount of speed. His abilities are really good, but as we will see later, one of his best abilities it's going to last for 4 turns. So he doesn't need to have a speed set and be constantly taking turns over and over again, just because what he has already has really good lasting effects. So that is going to be, again, the more impactful squad or characters that you want modded for the Resistance Squad. Now the next line, these ones are somewhat important. You want to have decent mods on them, but ultimately, if you have these 5 characters modded correctly, you're already going to be causing plenty of issues for all the normal counters out there, at least to the best of that team's ability. So for here, we have potency and speed on our Zori. She's not very fast. Her base is actually pretty low. That's one of the reasons why we focus on a Resistance Hero Finn, for being the fastest on the team. And I will say she does have some nice debuffs, so potency really doesn't hurt. But I don't have anything crazy on her, and I really don't think having her super high speed modded is the key to get the team going, because again, base speed, Finn just has more potential than she does. Poe, I probably should change this myself. I currently have him modded for offense and potency. You can do a speed set. The reason why I like offense and potency, because he does have a plethora of debuffs that he can deal with the enemy that are actually really nice, like buff immunity here, as well as I believe he has a 2-turn stun, and he has stagger and daze, and just a bunch of really good stuff. But ultimately, that's not what is going to make or break the team. That's all going to be done through the exposes from the good friends and the rest of his team. Rose, speed set would be nice. I guess make her somewhat tanky. The reason why is she wants to filter through as many turns so she can get tenacity up, so your whole team can be getting exposes off of the hit they're given, regardless of what it is. That's part of what Zori's kit does. OG or Poe, I do like to have a decent amount of speed on him too. It's not much. It's only like 100 total, so I think that's like maybe plus 10s, plus 15s on most of these mods with the speed set. Yeah, he's not. We really don't have him juiced, and the reason why is because he just needs to take a turn to be able to throw up his taunt. But again, if you're doing things correctly, he's gonna get turn meter. He doesn't need to be uber fast to be able to do that. He kind of already the team already has the tools that it needs to be able to get through. And then last, and I guess very least, are these 5 that I don't really use these characters, except for the one exception is BB-8. And BB-8 is a great character, don't get me wrong, we're not trying to bash him, but his modding's kind of whatever. He typically just sits there and rolls and gives potency and turn meter to himself throughout the whole battle. He also taunt for your General Grievous team if you're using him in that way for the TM boost at the beginning, but his modding really doesn't matter that much. He's not really the functional tank in any squad, and Grievous will kill him anyways, even if he's functioning as a tank in that squad. Speed, I guess you want speed on him overall if you're trying to use him, because that's the one thing he can use. The more turns he takes, the more of his special buff that he can give out, and the more turns that he takes, the more he can also get to Illuminated Destiny. But he can really do that even without well modded for speed. So he's nice, but I don't really know what squads are going to use him on. Maybe Swordy or Grievous. Fairly good, but just not as high of a tier as a Finzori or a Ray squad is. Scavray, I don't even know where to use her, man. I guess she can work kind of in a Seer team. She's not optimal. She can work in one of the other squads, but I guess if you're using her, you can mod her for like offense. Crit damage primary would be good here. As you can see, I'm really not going that hard on her modding in general, just because she's not that much in the spotlight. Although actually you might find yourself using her a lot if you don't have Ben Solo, but the key here is just to give her as much survivability as possible. We have protection primaries, we have health primaries, we have defense primaries. We could probably even swap this out for one of those as well. She doesn't necessarily need to be that fast. She has a reactive taunt whenever someone loses foresight, which is pretty common when you have a character like JTR on the team, so that you can be able to taunt and keep that going. But ultimately she's just kind of there to taunt, and her stats don't matter other than wanting to survive. Bet Chewie, you can use him in a Wookiee team, but most of you guys who are watching this probably don't have that built up. He doesn't mind potency and offense just with how his kit works. That's his kind of his role as an attacker. And Resistance Pilot, I mean, she's a pilot. She could probably use crit chance and potency, but very low priority for me on a modding tier list. I can't remember the last time I used her. Actually, last time I used her was probably years ago when OG Finn had a completely different lead than he does now. So that is going to be the modding. Make sure to get your Array and your Resistance Hero Finn right. Do try to get these well modded as possible. Make sure they have somewhat decent mods. And then for our last category, I mean, maybe give them mods, I guess would be the advice there. Now, we've talked a lot about modding. I do want to talk a little bit about Omni priorities before we finish the video, just because we didn't cover that at all yesterday. And you can apply these as you'd like. Full honesty though, the Resistance squads work fairly well, even if they don't have a single Omicron applied. But this is the order that I would do it if I had to choose. Forest Dyad for Ben Solo. This is actually a really annoying mechanic that allows him to keep going back to life every single time the enemy leader takes his turn, assuming he hasn't been permakilled. When you mix this with all the other things that the Resistance team, or rather the Galactic Legend Ray team, is already doing, it just makes it a huge headache and can cause a lot of timeouts. Obscured is a really nice second choice after you apply that one, because 4-turn healing immunity is just detrimental to a lot of counters, specifically C. C can't shake it off fast enough to not take a whirlwind as well as an ultimate back-to-back, and that will usually just kill him. Zori's is really nice, not essential to really get the team running, but one of the really nice things that it does is that it will make sure that you get an expose almost no matter what. Even if you're fighting a Wampa with super high tenacity, this will just completely sink them. And then on top of that, I've tried using Night Sisters versus the Zori team, and it can work, but one of the really annoying things is when they target zombie and you're like, yay, they're targeting zombie, they're not killing my Daka. But with this, you will slowly accumulate exposes on your Dako as the battle goes on, and then the Resistance Hero Finn will throw a grenade at zombie, but it's an AoE, so it'll hit Daka and kill her. So not super needed to get the team going, but it is nice to have on top of everything else. And then Rose's actually isn't terrible when you pair it with Zori and the rest of the team. This allows all of them to gain more offense and gain more turn meter, and this ends up becoming more important if someone fails first against your Finzori team when it's on your defense, because once this team is turn meter loaded and they have extra things like this just boosting them up and keeping the enemy team from taking a turn at all, it's terrible. I've seen this team, if they apply the Omicron to Rose, they apply the Omicron to Zori, they have everyone modded correctly. I've seen a turn meter team beat several different Galactic Legends. It's insane because you just can't get an inch in with the amount of stuff that they're getting on the opposite side. And last, and really not, I guess least, is going to be Bensol's Redeemed Omicron. And this one isn't terrible. Bensol's attacks ignore protection. The reason why it comes in last is because it's very situational. Bensol on his own, before any boosts, typically does not have enough offense to one-shot a character below protection. And the reason why that's important is because when you pair him with Rey on a defensive squad, all of her hits do not hit below protection. Her whirlwinds, her ultimate, and even her basic, they all hit above it. So typically what happens is Ben will go and he'll hit below protection and the character will fall to like 50% health. Then Rey will go and she will hit above protection with her ultimate and then just kill the character. And hitting below protection was never important in the first place because Rey had to hit the protection to get to the health after all. So overall, not that important. The one situation where it is really nice, typically it's when you're using Rey on offense and Ben is allowed to be inspired. The AI isn't smart enough to get that off of him, and he'll start accumulating a lot of offense from his mastery. And how Rey's kit works is when her characters get inspired, the enemy gains turn meter, this mastery starts to skyrocket, and eventually Ben's offense will get high enough to the fact where hitting underneath protection will just flat out kill a character. So not useless by any means, but if I only had 4 Omicrons I wanted to apply to resistance, this one just wouldn't make the cut for previously explained reasons. It's nice, but at the end of the day, it's pretty situational. So that is going to be the video. Kind of finishing out our mini series on the Rey Light Speed bundle. I do have videos for Kylo planned, so don't worry if you're interested in that. But thank you guys for watching. Until the next time, stay awesome.